Hello and welcome everyone to the summary of the UK turn 7 of my solo playthrough of Axis and Allies North Africa. And it's been a pretty eventful turn, a pretty disastrous turn, I could say, for the Axis. Well, what happened? Well, again, at the beginning of the turn, Cairo was fully stacked, so the two infantry couldn't move in. Obviously, the rest did advance, and these units were placed during phase 6, deploying reinforcements and assigning convoy escorts. This unit was thrown back because of mine detonations. As you can see, the British spent quite a few supplies in order to attack Mersa Matruh, but as you can also see, is they actually took it. It was quite well defended by the Germans, but it's also important to note that you can attack with 13 units into Mersa Matruh because you don't actually enter the territory until you actually capture it. And it's not until that time that you have to abide by the stacking limits of the territory you're moving into. So you can attack with up to 13 units, which is the stacking limit of Cairo, into Mersa Matruh, but then should you have more than 8 left, you can never advance more than 8 into it. But as you can see, they actually did advance with 2 Sherman tanks and 3 Matilda tanks. The other units were destroyed except for the bomber, which retreated during non-combat. And the Axis also detonated 1 mine. But yeah, in hindsight, I guess they should have detonated 2 of them. That might have made a small difference. And here you can see all the supplies that were spent. First 3, because they attacked with, I believe, 11 units, 13, but the scout car didn't have to pay any supplies, and neither did the bomber. So 11 units, so they had to pay 3 supplies, which for that 11th unit is, of course, quite costly because, you could attack with up to 5 units, and in this case, it was only 1 for that 1 supply. But yeah, I did want to have enough infantry support there. The Brits rolled very well, I have to admit. Well, what else happened? Over here, not that much actually. Here, the British placed a sea mine because there were no Axis combat ships there, only transports, and these 2 units came from the sea deployment zone for the UK. And they moved through this area where there were actually 2 Axis sea mines, but they were both detonated, but they both missed. Then they went here, and along with the fighter from Sicily, from Malta, which I still have to land, they attacked the convoy and destroyed 3 infantry units and 5 supply tokens, and only the tank and the truck made it out of there. Know that they're still in the Z zone. They won't land until the next German turn, so the Americans could potentially still do something there. But yeah, these units at least escaped the British units. I'm not quite sure what I wanted to show with that particular die. Oh yeah, that was for the sea mines I just talked about. But yeah, as you can see, a pretty disastrous turn for the Germans especially, but of course for the Axis as a whole, because the Italians can counterattack because they are no longer in possession of the supplies. And there are no supplies. I mean, there will be some Italian supplies landing, but yeah, they won't actually be next to any Italian units at that time, so they won't be able to use them. Germans hadn't actually thought they would lose the territory, but they did. It was a pretty strong attacking force. 4 infantry or so, 5 or 6 tanks, a bomber, a scout car. So yeah, as you can see, that can be pretty devastating, even though the territory was pretty well defended. And note that you cannot have any air units there because air units can only land in a territory with an RP value, so they're here. Otherwise, it would be easier to defend it if you had some air units there. But yeah, you cannot have them in that particular territory, so that's definitely something I've learned as well. And something I didn't mention on the previous German turn, what the British obviously should have done is at the end of turn 6, or not at the end, but on turn 5 or something, place units here, and on turn 6 move them here to protect the American transports, which still, they were relatively lucky because relatively few of them were destroyed, on the contrary to the Germans here in the Tunis convoy. The British should have moved and could have moved some ships there during turn 6, to be there if and when the Germans place any submarines to attack the American landing force, and potentially a bomber, which has now also been bought by the British and placed in Gibraltar. If you do that in time, or a fighter, but a bomber is probably a better option, will also be able to assist then. Of course, you do need a destroyer in order to be able to attack the subs there, but that's definitely an option. And know that if you want to have a convoy protection there, so assigned convoy escorts, it would be possible to do so from Gibraltar, but you cannot do that until a convoy is actually open. And in this case, it's not open yet because the associated territory has not yet been captured, which of course is logical because the American turn is still to come. And again, as I also mentioned on my previous video, these British units that are going to land in Algiers do so on the American turn. That's a special rule. So I guess this sums up the turn. Thank you very much for watching.